Editor Tim note, before you watch this video, when I was recording this, I was high. Well, not high, I shouldn't say that. I was on lots of caffeine. I had 3 of these, so, well, this is actually my 4th now, editing. So, hope you enjoy a very, very energetic Tim. Hello everyone, welcome. It's been some time, so you're probably wondering, Tim, how is the game going? How is the game going, Tim? Tim, how is the game going? It sucks. But I'm here to give you an update on it. I'm starting to actually feel ready to the point where, yeah, I've got a lot of new stuff to show you. So here's some of that new stuff. Well, look, it's a webcam. I'm not doing subtitles for this video because there's too much to talk about. And I've already recorded it once, but my microphone wasn't on, so that was a waste of 12 minutes of my life. Anyway, welcome back. You may notice absolutely nothing has changed. That's because we're in the same scene. Well, it's a shop. Wait, what? Wrong shop! Okay, before I show you what's happened, I need to explain something. I made a shop and I didn't like it, so I made a new one. I made a shop that functioned and I hated it. So, there's now a 3D shop. And the only way to really explain this is to show you. So, ladies and gentlemen, I overdid it. I always overdo these things. Why do I always overdo these things? I don't need to do this much. So, as of right now, we have 3 potential upgrade. I don't know why it doesn't say upgrades. Speed, damage, and health. Those do not work right now. It's still a work in progress. In fact, this entire video is a work in progress, so shut up. What am I on about? As you can see, we have our view, lovely in 3D, and you also notice that the UI is behind the ships, because I just thought it looked cool. Now, I have this little buttons element, that's basically just for me right now, it's going to be gone on the actual thing, and that is because these buttons don't work, and I don't know why, and we're not going to divulge into that. So, if I click on Spitfire, the camera automatically lerps from its current position to the new one. If I move from there to Red Dagger, it lerps to here. And it also changes the name along here. So, you're probably wondering, how's he done it? No, you really don't care, you just want to see the fun stuff? Well, too bad, you're going to have to see the boring stuff too. Lecture time. The webcam moved. That's because all the stuff I want to talk about is down here. So, I have a new script. Ooh, it's called Cam Movement. And no, it's not from my mate Cameron. So, we have all of the ship views, which are stored as Vector 3 transforms. And we have all of the rotations stored as quaternions. Tim, why don't you store the transforms with the rotations and simplify your code? Well, as much as I would love to do that to a random user on the internet, I cannot. And I'm very, very upset about it. Unity forces you to use Vector 3 if you want to transform a position, but it also forces you to use quaternion if you want to rotate. So, let's have a look at some funky code. Oh, I'm going to have to move the webcam again. Done. So, I've headed everything, so everything looks a bit more clean now. We have a public transform with an empty array. This is our ship views. So the views, if you see views anywhere, it means the transform, so where it physically is in the 3-dimensional space. The rotations store the angle at which the camera is going to be pointed at, because I liked it to have different rotations, so that as you move from one ship to another, it will rotate as well as move. Made it about 10,000 times harder, but that's what she said. No, nothing. We also have a float with the rotation speed, and we also have a quaternion with our target rotation. I don't need that to be public because I'm not calling it in the Unity file, it's only run through script. You have a boolean for whether or not we're rotating, that's very important, don't forget that. We also have a rotation percentage, I'll explain that in a minute, and a text with the ship text. That text is referencing this. In our start, we set our current view to ship view 0. That is because the very top view is our starter rotation and view. So we have the starter view and we have the starter rotation. That's why, when I click play, the camera is not actually set up where it's going to start because I wanted a bit of movement. So you can see the ship as it moves in front of the UI, which I thought was cool, over and across before resting in its final position. Made me think of the Queen there. To do this, a number of things had to happen. You have to set the current view to the new view. That's the same for all of these, in fact. Every single one of these functions, pretty much the same, it's just a different number and a different target rotation. Target rotation is set to whichever one we want it to be, depending on the function. At the start, I set it to starter rotation. Starter view will also have starter rotation. That's because if you move to another ship, but then move back to the original, it needs to go there. But it can't be run to the same start script. Rotating is set to true. That means that we need to start rotating. But Tim, where's the rotation? I hear you morbidly ask. Down here. So, right now it's an avoid update script. It shouldn't be, because it's really inefficient. But what it's basically doing is it's constantly checking to see whether or not you press the button. Yeah, that's right. Constantly checking. I'm sorry. Once the rotation finally becomes true, it sets off this. The rotation percentage plus equals the rotation speed times 0.01. Had to be times by 0.01 because it was too fast. And the rotation speed is also defined in the Unity browser, Unity game engine, which I've also set ridiculously low because for whatever reason it's doing it too fast. Transform.rotation takes the quaternion and alerts it to the new rotation. As you can see, I'm subbing in the transformer.rotation currently because it needs to know what its current rotation is so it knows how to change. Lerp is basically taking your current rotation, target rotation, and going, okay, well here, does that make sense? Probably not. Here is the most efficient route to move from one rotation to another. Got our target rotation, which is subbed in, and that's been defined earlier from when we actually call. And then we have our rotation percentage. Ignore me, I've just had a brainwave. I'll fix that later. Once our rotation percentage increased... Once the rotation percentage increases 100%, it will immediately set the rotation to false and goes back to 0, because if you don't, it's just going to not rotate. I had to learn that one out the hard way. But that's not the end, because while you may think that's the bottom of the update script, we have a late update. A late update is called at the end of the frame. That takes the position, lerps it, subs in the current position, subs in the new position, times it by time.delta and the cam speed. Time.delta, you'll see that I'll load in this video. All that's doing is it's basically smoothing things out. So if you're running at 6 frames per second or 600 frames per second, this is just going to smooth things out. I don't really know why it works, it just does, okay? Let me have this one. At times it by the cam speed. The cam speed is defined here. Back up here again. Cam speed is defined here along with the rotation speed. Had to set the rotation speed incredibly low. And a current bug, which I'm not really sure why it happens, is that over time it gets faster. So if I very quickly go and call Spitfire, it will smoothly but slowly rotate, also pretty slowly. But the longer that you leave it, and I'll demonstrate this in a minute, the faster the rotation becomes. I don't know why this is happening, it just is. So if I now go to Red Dagger, you can see that's a fair bit faster. Go to Viper, it's getting a bit faster. Bloodlust, Liturus, Quantum Light, God. God is broken, don't ask why. It just slowly becomes faster, and I've noticed it the more that I use it. You can see it's moving a fair bit faster now, it's rotating faster. But yeah, I don't really know how to fix it, so that's just the current problem I have. And let's move this camera again, because we haven't moved it enough. Let's put it here this time. Ooh, isn't that fun? I don't even think that's centralized. Alright, enough boring stuff. Last thing I want to see is more code. Oh look, it's more code. Did I say code right the first time? I don't care, I'm keeping it in. What we have here is a serialized transform, which is referencing our current player. We have a float with the movement speed of the enemy and dampening of the movement enemy. That's basically just going, okay, what's its turning circle? I'll explain that better in a bit. We have a boolean saying, is it attackable, is it in range? In fact, actually, you can ignore all of this because that's in the chasing and attacking script, which I haven't made yet. So basically in the future, when it's, you know, rotating around you, it's also going to shoot you. But for that, I need to do loads of maths, which I can't be bothered to do. So we have our private update, which is calling the movement and the rotation. Once again, because of vector 3s and quaternions, you have to split them. Movement is done in one, rotation is done in another. Also makes the code a bit cleaner, so just accept it. You've got movement, which takes your current position, you transform forward. All that's doing, transform.forward, is moving forward. Timesing it by its movement speed and time.delta. So all that the ship would do if it wasn't for rotate is constantly move in a straight line. The rotation takes the play position, minus the transform position, and starts turning it through a quaternion to look at the translated reference there, rotation. Transform.rotation slurps. Slurp is the only thing I don't understand out of this. Slurp is taking the transform.rotation and is turning, which is also referenced here. Basically, what's a good way of explaining this? This is defining the turn, this is performing the turn, this is defining the translate, this is performing the translate. It's also being dampened, and that's being times by time.delta once again for reasons I've already explained. Yeah. So, I'm going to go full webcam because I need to do some explaining. Oh, I have loads on the floor. Oh well, you have to deal with that. This is my player on the tip of my finger. This is an enemy. What I want the enemy to do is to hit and then circle around shooting at the player. However, what it was doing for a long time was constantly trying to get to the player, and regardless of where the player moved, it would just keep attacking repeatedly over and over. So what I did is I gave it something called a dampen. All that's doing is limiting essentially its turning circle for how harsh it can turn for any corner. So now, when it's trying to get to the player's position, it will instantly hit, which I find funny, so I keep it in. But then it will rotate because it's constantly trying to touch the player, but it can't because it's being dampened. It's like if you had a car locked to the absolute left, but then you slammed on the accelerator. If you have something in the middle of its turning circle, it's never going to get hit. At least not physically. It should be shot. So, do you want to see it actually in action? Well, why not? Oh my word, it's gameplay of Tim's new game. Look, it's gameplay, it's gameplay. So, that's it for updates. That's it from me. I didn't bother to subtitle this, because once again I filmed this once already with my microphone off, which I could have admittedly now subtitled now that I think about it. But I wanted to leave something to the very end that I wanted to announce with my voice, because I have finally thought of a name for this game. It's no longer Project Aliens. It's officially called Starlight. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next update.